Alright, so I guess I would pause the video about this BakesOnMesh feature that Lab is developing. Now, why you should not be that happy with this? Well, because basically Lab is bringing back the old system layers. So all of the system clothing we were used to in the past is going to be revived as a dead corpse to be brought to life. Now, also, this is not an actual BakesOnMesh, it's a BakesOnMesh avatars, because it only applies to mesh avatars. So it's not BakesOnMesh, because mesh is anything you can have into Second Life that's made up of meshes. So why, in my opinion, this is the latest attempt of the lab to make a fool out of all of us, all of their user base, because they are giving us a new project for greater and better content, between quotes, of course, while totally neglecting anything else that is not an avatar. So it's not only bringing back a necro feature that, yeah, I can be happy only about the return of the alpha clothing, so the alpha masking for the clothing, so that we can mask out more precisely what should not be sticking out of our clothing. But all of the rest is actual bullshit. Sorry for my French, but it is basically ignoring all of the newer features that we've got. One over all of the others is materials. Now, BakesOnMesh, as they state as per the initial release, it won't be affecting materials, it won't be using materials, but we all know how Linden Lab actually operates. The initial release is going to stay as it is, and no more work will be put into that. So they're wasting a lot of development time and dollars, you know, in something that is benefiting only one portion of the actual mesh user base. Now, why it is a waste? Because this system is going to make one single texture out of many textures, but that's only for the diffuse texture. So normal maps will not be included, specular maps are not going to be included. So now, also on avatars, now that all of the skins have their own materials, where the specularity has a different value for the skin, the regular skin, and the nipple skin, right, with its own normal map to make all of the bumpies and whatever, is now going to be used on top of a baked mesh, of a baked texture on the mesh for the diffuse that also shows, for example, wrinkles that have no normal map, so it won't be interacting with light. It will keep the skin bumpiness or normal map, and the specular map from the skin. So your nice BakesOnMesh shirt is going to have the skin pores showing instead of the wrinkles, and also will have different specularity between, for example, again, the nipple and the regular skin. So, in my opinion, Fabric does not work like that. Fabric has its own specularity, and it does not change regarding the area it is going to be applied. Fabric is fabric. The wrinkles have their own depth, not the one that you get from the skin. Alright? So also this is a very big BS, as I said before. Okay? Moreover, instead of actually developing their platform, so improving the platform, they're just taking the easy route to, you know, fool us out, really, by reviving an older feature which is easier because it's already there, and they're going just to apply it on meshes that are being worn, right? Instead of giving us a newer shader, maybe with a layering system which is standard, I don't know, from at least 2010, 2011, anyway, by many years, since many years, the layering of different materials is a standard practically anywhere. And I can show you what layering things actually mean. Alright? So don't believe the fanboys like the Slink owner, Sidian Monroe, okay, who is behaving like the LinolLab fanboy, as they are, because some dot points below to hopefully answer some question as far as I know it. Yeah, as far as I know you, as far as you know it. Okay, so all of the system things and whatever are going to be brought to life. Yeah, acceptable. But there is still a need for applies for nail polishes, specular maps, and normal maps. So now that you realize that the BakesOnMesh is not going to account for specular maps and normal maps, and if the whole thing was to reduce the overall polygon count for these meshes, so to decrease the lag, what is the solution to this to apply the corresponding specular maps and normal maps? Onion skinning. So the problem is not gone this way. So you still will have to wear additional layers of your mesh body if you want to keep all of the goodness from normal maps and specular maps. And I don't even know how good that will look like. But regardless of this, what I claim they would have done is simply something that any company developing, so improving something, would have done. Take their only one shader and keep improving that. So we've got materials, and we got a little bit closer to so-called standards. At least we have materials with specularity, glossiness, normal maps, and such. So why couldn't we have a layering system? I can show you an example of a layering system that I've got by exploiting a bug during the export from 3D softwares. And I'm gonna show you that right now. So I'm over here at the Bilwas Brewery, and I've got a layered mesh hut. It's a hut. Again, this is a bug that I exploited, so the object is coming out unusable because of its land impact. Alright? Because it's basically doubling everything in it, and yeah, the complexity, of course, skyrockets. But if they work on the shader, on the materials, and allow more than one materials, not only mesh bodies would benefit, but anything else that can have materials applied to them can benefit from it. So let's res this thing, which is 500 land impact, 538. Again, this is because of the bug that I exploited. But the main feature that we should, let me take away the highlights, that we should consider is this feature over here. See, I am using tiled material for the logs. Okay, and this was just a quick example. As you can see, it also features, let me move over here, it also features ambient occlusion, but it can be also lighting, so lit areas and shadows. Okay, now I'm going to select these logs here, okay, and I can tile them to my wish, so saving on texture usage, because I can revive the tileable textures instead of baking also the lighting. I keep the ability to have materials. But the cool thing is that if I click a second time on the same surface, as you can see here, I have an ambient occlusion repeated just one time, okay, that layers on top. So if I deselect everything, you can see that the ambient occlusion has not changed, but I still get the ability to change my mind real quick, keep a very high resolution visually speaking, always keeping the same number of textures. Okay, so we would be saving on texture numbers, we would be saving on a lot of other things, still keeping the ability to have, you know, baked lighting, which isn't bad, right? But moreover, you can also layer more materials on top of each other. For example, on the rock part here, I could be layering some material for moss, okay, and with the same exact set of textures, I could have many different parts and objects that use the same textures that still look different because of different tiling settings. So if I were to tile this like as I'm showing here, or 2 and 2, it wouldn't really matter anyway, because the ambient occlusion is still there, but I'm still retaining the ability to use materials. And I still retain to use the ambient occlusion, so the baked lighting. Now, isn't this just better than, you know, enhancing, so to speak, and that's between quotes, only avatars in order to do this? Isn't that better? Isn't that just more logical as a development for a platform that would be benefiting every one of us instead of only mesh bodies? Okay, I agree with you. That was needed. Alphas are a great thing so that we don't have to get all of that slicing of avatars, but that could be solved differently and still giving us the ability to have more materials one on top of each other, more customization for all types of content, not only mesh avatars. And that is why I claim, unfortunately, that the lab is again trying to make a fool out of the user base, just giving us the sop of working on a project that brings an awesome feature that could be even more awesome if they even had a chance or even had any experience in game developing altogether. Alright, so do not please believe that they will keep developing things for you after the initial release. We all know how Linden Lab has always worked and always operated. The initial release will stay like that, if we are lucky, for years to come. For years, if we get them to work again on this thing. So please make your voice be heard, to just drop this stupid, totally useless type of project, which is going to benefit maybe only mesh avatars in regard of the alpha clothing, the alpha masking for the body and for the clothing, instead of having avatars being split in chunks to have the different alpha sections, right? And just ask for a more intelligent and more logic type of development, which is actually due at this stage, because, well, Sensor is a failure, and Second Life, if we keep going like this, is just going to fall behind all of the other platforms, even more than what we are already. So again, I show you here on the Hey roof, that over here the ambient occlusion is even more visible. Let me find a pretty dark spot, like here. Here it's pretty dark, right? That's the hay texture. And look, I can have more hay without the need of baking the lighting again. The baked lighting would stay there, and whatever I want to do here is just to change the material texture to whatever I want, to whatever we want. We could keep having the materials, we could keep having the baked lighting on top, and we could also have more materials to be layered on top of the very first material for awesome looks, for a lot less resources, computationally speaking, and which translates into less lag, less memory wasted on one building that needs gazillion of textures just because we want the ambient occlusion, and every single section of the building is unique, and therefore it actually uses a lot, tons of textures in order to give you that. Moreover, tiling textures give you a dynamic resolution, whilst the baking all of the textures with lighting gives you a limited amount of resolution, reason for gazillion of baked textures to keep the resolution high. So this is it for my rant. I hope to have made my point across quite easily and quite understandably to everyone. Do not believe the lab. Please make your voice heard for what concerns development of this kind of feature. Dump BakesOnMesh and give us material layering, texture layering. Thank you very much for listening.